Hey, what's up? I'm here with Tom and Tucker from Thursday. Guys, what's up?
How you doing, man?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Good to see you.
Jeff's sick, which, as a Thursday fan, I guess for me anyways, it's happened a couple times. How is he feeling? Is he okay?
He's feeling sick.
I think he's on a no talk till show
Yeah.
kind of bed rest right now because everybody kind of got like a weird bronchitis thing over the past couple days, and he's the last one to get it. So
I always wonder, like, when you're in a touring band and you get something like that, like, what do you do? You get sick, you just dog it?
I, for the last week and a half, just sort of plowed through it and took vitamins, I think, for the first time in my life, and infected everyone else
Nice.
actively, and now I feel better. So,
Tom, you're to blame.
yes, fully, most of the time.
whenever it comes to health, he's always to blame.
Well, I mean, it's weird because I remember I came to see you guys open for Deftones, and Jeff was coughing up blood, and he had to cancel that tour. So, I mean, he's going to play tonight. He's going to keep going.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're definitely gonna play. I mean, he's just got a tough job with the singing and some of the screaming stuff, and
Yeah.
him being so active on stage that he gives himself every night. So
Right off the bat, I guess the first thing I wanted to talk about is the new record. How do you pronounce the name?
I think it's devolution.
Devolution.
Yeah.
So no devolution.
Some of the members of the band say devolution. Jeff says devolution, so I think it's no devolution.
And tell us about the record because the single was released on Spin. Was it Spin? And then I was doing some reading there, and you guys said that, or Jeff said that you had released that particular song to sort of not trip fans out too much by putting out like a heavier song and giving the wrong impression. So like, are there going to be is there going to be some heavy stuff on the record? And what does it sound like? What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, there's definitely some heavier songs, but I think that the weight of the record is more of a mood. It's established by how to put it, like it's a super textural record. It's a lot darker than our other stuff. We have songs that are like in our wheelhouse, like Down the Middle Thursday, heavy, at this velocity type songs or whatever. But Andrew played a bigger role in the writing of this record, and we kind of followed his lead on a number of songs that turned out to be our favorite songs, but they're also probably the darkest songs we've ever written, and it'll probably be the more challenging ones to people who think they know what we're doing, to typical fans. But I don't know. It's just super moody, super really, really dark record.
I would say it's our most atmospheric record too. I would think, as far as the whole soundscape of it.
So like, what about the instrumental stuff that we saw on like the on the split with Envy? Is there stuff like that on the record?
I'd say there's a good dose of those colors on this record, but there's only so many times you can write a song like In Silence before, as far as we're concerned, Jeff needs to start singing on it, Right, yeah. So, there's a good handful of songs like that, but they move at different paces, and I don't know, we'll see.
In Silence, I think, was like a really, as a fan, to see you guys actually do something like that. It was just very soundtracky, I guess. So something like that, I guess, on the new record, that sort of vibe.
Yeah,
Cool.
we're hoping to put our music in a lot of different movies and TVs and stuff.
Nice.
We'll see.
So today you guys are doing Full Collapse, which is mind-blowing. And it gives me an excuse to actually ask you guys about that record. So I was hoping I could go through some of the songs on the record and ask you guys about it.
We'll try and remember as best we can.
Yeah. Okay. I guess the first track is AI 2001.
Or AI 11 or AI.
It's binary code.
Yeah, it's some sort of binary code.
So that's the way the album begins and ends. And I love that, like little interludes and stuff. Why did you guys decide to do that back then?
A lot of our favorite bands had weird little musical movements that weren't necessarily full songs. They were just sort of something to listen to, like a mood setting. Like a lot of bands had like intros, and we like the idea of presenting a full record, and to that end, having something welcome you into an experience and then have it sort of usher you out at the end. It kind of added to the completion, the sense of wholeness for the record.
Cool.
And we were also into hardcore when we were kids, so like a lot of those bands, the hardcore bands, would do like movie samples like in songs and stuff like that. So that was kind of like, we also kind of like that vibe too back then.
But we had been listening to bands for like 10 years that did that. So like for as much as we loved that kind of thing, it was like, well, it's been done so many times.
Yeah, we wanted to do our own
It's
thing.
like a guilty pleasure. Like, oh, there's the movie quote. Cool. Like it's a total guilty pleasure. So it was more of like an attempt to make our own thing rather than, just
splurge something in there.
yeah.
But I mean, it also kind of sets the tone for the record because it's there's the screaming side of it, but it's also this really sort of mellow piece, which I think for Full Collapse, anyways, is like perfect. Well, I guess overall your band, but Understanding in a Car Crash. I mean, that's people know what that song's about, but maybe just the writing process. Anything cool about that song when it first happened?
It was nothing remarkable. We were just hanging out with each other like we always did, and we're just jamming out like we always did, and the song came out. Like the whole record, honestly,
Was it like
that? It was probably the most effortless thing we've ever done as a group of people. Like, and I don't mean to have that sound like, I'm not bragging or anything. It was just we weren't aware of things that we are now aware of, as far as like, our interpersonal relationships were still sort of forming, and we didn't hate each other yet, and there was no outside pressure to do anything other than to write a song.
No one had heard of Thursday when we were writing that record.
Yeah.
So it was like, we were just writing a record, making songs. Kids picking our noses and writing songs.
But I mean, it's such a rad record. Like that's one of those records for me, anyways. It takes me back to a time and a place, and there's I guess few albums for people, but that's one of mine. So
Thank you.
yeah, no, it's definitely one of those records for me. I guess Concealer. Anything you can tell us about that track?
That's a weird one, especially for me rhythmically, because it starts out at this one tempo, and then all of a sudden in the middle there's this really weird time shift, and I never understood it. I understand it, but I never understood why we were doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pain in the ass for you to play, basically.
It's not. It's not. It's just like when my body gets to that one part, it's like, this is wrong. This is wrong. This feels wrong. But it's one of those songs that it turned out cool, but it definitely felt like to me like two different songs smushed together.
Autobiography of Nation, my favorite song on the album, and that was the first song that I heard. Mike actually made me a tape and put that on there, and that was the first one. And I spoke to Jeff about it, and it was a poem that he had sort of just recollected, like he didn't even have a copy of it. But it also added that sort of social political side to the record, and speak to that song, because that's my favorite Thursday song.
Well, honestly, I can't really speak to the lyrical content because that's Jeff's forte, and I'm more of the sound person. But
musically, though, I mean, it's
we had our friend Tom, who plays in a bunch of really great bands, or played in a bunch of really great bands. The assistant, you and I, who we looked up to quite a bit when we were sort of forming our deal. He came and did some guest vocals on that song, and it brought it to another, it just shot it out into the universe. So it became so much more realized and impactful having him on that song. That song, and as well as Cross Out the Eyes, he does the majority of the backing vocals on the actual album.
That song is actually very heavily inspired by Hot Water Music as well.
Really?
Yeah, that kind of forward lyrical, starting it out with the crowd, write these words back down. It's and it's been a staple of our set since the beginning. That and Understanding a Car Crash. Yeah. We play them almost every night, whether we're on a Full Collapse tour or just a regular tour.
Now, I mean, we're talking about the sound of that record. How important was that record in shaping your sound? Because I've talked about it with you guys in the past. You guys do sound like, at least to me, sometimes jets fucking flying into buildings, and you sounded like, the weird thing for me, anyways, is you sounded like that prior to War All the Time, and then War All the Time came out, and it's the first album I heard somebody reference 9/11 and how important that was. So, I mean, are you guys aware of that sound that you do have? Do you know what I mean? It's this I don't even know how to explain it. It sounds like machinery slash, emotions. I don't know, like real things. I don't know.
I mean, there's only so much you can only be so self-conscious before you start to undo what you inherently do. Like the more you pay attention to, okay, well, elements A through Z make the whole thing work, and so you don't want to really, I personally don't want to delve too far into okay, well, what makes me tick exactly, because then I'm a different person. Once then the cat's out of the bag. creatively.
I think to let the cat out of the bag, we all don't know when to stop playing in songs. We don't take breaks in songs, so that's probably why it sounds like there's crazy shit going on, because everyone's playing at all times.
But then, you know, At This Velocity comes out on City, which, you know, literally is a plane crash. You know what I mean? Just one of the few bands, I don't know, I can't think of too many bands that I would describe that way. And
Well, it's weird, man. I mean, like, truthfully, the motivation has never been to, like, make a record so we could sell it and it'll be, like, a cool record for, like, cool kids to buy. It's like, okay, we have these ideas, these experiences that we went through, you know, whether we're talking about lyrical content or making sounds that move, I'll speak for myself, that move me personally. Like, it's connected to something real, not a marketing plan. It's not connected to, like, oh, I want to be, you know, in, you know, band X, Y, and Z or whatever. Like, it's a more organic, flawed thing. And so hopefully at the end of the day, when you're done writing a song, it sounds like something real. It sounds like something substantial and not just like a production choice or, you know.
Glossy.
Yeah.
Slick.
let's continue to go through this record, guys, if you don't mind. Where are we? We stopped at Autobiography. Okay, so A Hole in the World, and that's a great song, and it translated really well acoustically as well. Anything about that one when it happened?
That one actually has a little bit of a weird history. I moved to Savannah, Georgia, for a year, and was writing that song because I had nothing else to do. Like, my band was in New Jersey, and I was in school, like, losing my mind, depressed. And so was writing this song, you know, with the hopes that eventually I'd start another band, and met up with Drew, who's the singer of Circle Takes a Square. Became fast friends with that dude, and almost had that song. I was trying to, like, squeeze my way into Circle Takes a Square because they were just forming, and we really got along. And that was my first offering. Was like, hey, I got this song. Maybe, you know, I'm not coming empty-handed. Like, let's try it out. And we played it once or twice just in a rehearsal, and it was fine. But you know, I think for everyone involved, it worked out better as a Thursday song, and me not being in Circle Takes a Square. Although you might beg to differ.
Yeah, I'd be stoked. No, I'm just kidding.
Why did you guys decide to do that one acoustically?
I mean, I don't really remember exactly what led us to that one. I think it was probably something as simple as going through each of the songs and being like, well, that sounds the least bad. You know, because like I'll often, like, try and play a song for somebody. They're like, what's your band like? Or, you know, we'll be sitting around playing guitars. I'll be like, well, this is my guitar part. You'll have no idea what the song sounds like. You know, because we all sort of lean on each other for, you know, a full picture. The song doesn't come into focus until we're all, you know, moving around and wiggling and doing our weird music shit. Yeah. But yeah, I think it probably just sounded the least bad. All the other ones sounded probably really bizarre acoustic.
You can imagine an Autobiography acoustic.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
no, I can't.
Doesn't
Maybe you could do
make
it.
sense. Maybe.
Never say never. Cross at the Eyes, staple when it comes to Thursday.
Yeah. I mean, that was
It's a big one.
that's another one. Yeah, another one of those staples like I was talking about. Yeah, I love playing that song. It's a little strange for me because it's the drum intro, and I don't play to a metronome, so I never know what this. I'm like trying to think beforehand, like, don't play it too fast, but don't play it too slow. We'll play it kind of fast, but slow it down a little bit. So that's my plight with that song.
I remember that was, I think, the first song that Jeff wrote for the record, almost completely by himself. Like, Jeff dabbles in guitar, and
Really?
Yeah, yeah, and you know, back then, like, there was a lot of translating going on. Like, he would have an idea, and he has great ideas, but the muscle coordination wasn't quite happening, and so we'd have to interpret it. But that was the first one that he came in and he's like, hey, I got this song. And I'm like, all right, here we go. I'm going to go on this trip with you, and I'm going to try and figure out what it is you're trying to communicate to me musically. And it was so easy. It was done. Like, he just had it. Like, it was a big step up for him from past efforts.
Yeah, he really did write that one front to back.
That's crazy.
And he was even like, yo, throw a drum intro on the beginning of this. And I was like, okay, what's the part?
Sweet, cool Thursday factoid.
Yeah.
Paris in Flames, another like huge staple song. Talk about that one. I actually found this video on YouTube. I don't know if it's official or not, but it's people protesting in Paris to that song with live footage. Is that official or is that?
No, I think
you seen that?
that's probably just some viral thing that kids tend to take to our music and throw all kinds of imagery all over it, and kind of go to town on that stuff. But
I remember with that song we were listening to. We had just gotten Glassjaw. Everything You Ever Want to Know About Silence, and that all the songs on that record had like a real groove to them. So we wanted to write a song that was like super like kind of groovy. Yeah, like excuse me. Yeah, total pocket song, and yeah,
it's kind of our tribute to bands like Quicksand, like that whole era.
I remember when we were writing it. Jeff being like, dude, I don't know about that song. It's too groovy. It's too weird. It doesn't feel chaotic enough. I was kind of like, well, let's just go with it. That's kind of the point of this one. Let's try that. So,
Cool. I love that tune.
thanks, man.
All right, I'm the Killer. What can you tell us about that one?
That was Tim and Steve, I think.
Tim and me.
Oh yeah, Tim. And
Yeah, Tim and me. That we were very heavily listening to Deftones' White Pony at that time, and
Wow, this is blowing my mind, guys. White Pony, Everything You Want to Know About Silence.
Tim was very into some of the bass lines in the that record, and the At the Drive-In record had come out at the same time. So we were like really like, oh my god, all this great music right now. Like, I want to write a song like that. I want to do something, have that feeling, and so Tim came up with the guitar parts for some of it, and we just would jam because we lived together, and came up with the basic small structure of it, and then invited these buttholes in to.
Yeah, I remember showing up and being like, wow, this thing's like almost done. Like you guys did. That was, I think, the first one that you guys really liked, ran with it. Yeah, it was great.
Standing on the Edge of Summer. What about that one?
That's as Jeff puts it, the easy listening part of the set.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, time and place for me, man.
Yeah, it's bizarre, man. I mean, I guess that's the closest song that we ever really got, that we ever made, that was anything resembling like a pop song. Yeah. And it was completely unintentional. Like, we wanted it to sound like Hum or like like who else? We had no intention of it being like a pop song, but it, and I don't think it ever really became one. But
although it was a high school class's end of the year theme song.
Was it really?
Yeah. Some girl's high school, she like wrote to us. She's like, yeah, that's my high school song.
That's cool.
Like,
and
whoa.
How
does everyone feel about that?
Yeah. It was high school song, and it was in a horror movie of all the songs they could have picked from us to be in a horror movie. They picked Standing on the Edge of Summer.
Yeah, there is a song called I Am the Killer.
Yeah.
It comes
right before it.
Standing on the Edge of Summer.
Yeah. Yeah. For the record, it was a shit movie, so I don't think they knew what they were doing.
Next, I have to ask about How Long Is the Night. That's Mikey's one of Mikey's favorites. What can you tell me about that tune?
That one feels like when you're writing music and you see like the whole record laid out. Like songs kind of take on, when they're in the order like 1 through 10, they take on different shapes, and like the more you do like music editing, you start to visualize music. You see like sound waves and everything, and you see structures just sort of vaguely. That one always feels like this huge albatross of a song to me.
Strongest tree in the forest.
I've been playing that song for 10 years, and every time we get to the end, there's at least a 60% chance we're totally going to blow it. I'm so nervous at the end of that song every time because it gets so quiet, and it's me and Steve Steve's not in my monitor when we play live. I'm not in his monitor, and so we have to play on other sides of the stage. We can't hear each other. Thankfully, this guy sometimes keeps time and keeps us in check, but man.
If I hear them going too far, I'm like, oh, fucking for real? I can't drink water. I have to keep time now. It's my only break of the whole set.
Yeah. I mean, I love that song. It's just, it always kept me like really uncomfortable for some reason, just from a playing standpoint and a visualization standpoint. It's a bizarre one.
Jeff and I always do this thing in the in the beginning, like I do this hi-hat bell ride thing, just to get him like in the time of starting the song, because he starts it, and he always does it wrong.
Yeah.
So I'm always like in the middle of doing it, and he starts it. I'm like, oh shit, and I have to like jump in at the right spot.
Yeah.
But every
And then
time,
we
like,
look
I'll
at
look
each
at
other,
each other.
roll eyes, like, oh, he did it again. Still not getting it.
Fun on-stage factoid for you.
Yeah.
I guess that wraps the record. But you know, when you're playing this stuff front to back like that, I mean, does it take you back to those days?
You know, I don't think that's possible. Like for me, like I'm more excited about I've actually seen kids who are at these shows now who were literally 7 when the record came out. You know, like they're teenagers, and I'm just kind of blown away by the fact that I'm watching them actually connect with it for the first time. It's like this bizarre time capsule that they didn't know existed. I didn't expect that to happen. I thought it would be, you coming to the show, however many versions of you, or adult people coming to walk down memory lane or whatever. But it's been really surprising, man. Like I really don't know what to attribute it to. Like,
I mean, I definitely, there's no time to go back to that place in time on stage for me, because I'm concentrating so much on what I'm doing. But definitely like talking to people like you and people after the show, or going to sit at merch and seeing people that, like, we've had people come up to us and be like, dude, I haven't been to a show in like 5 years, but because you're doing this, it makes I came out to a show. Yeah, which I thought that kind of zaps me back to being like, oh, well, like, I guess it really did motivate people, and I remember what that was like, being kind of motivated to do something or go see a band that I really liked. So
another thing that kind of makes it different this time around, like back then we were playing literally kitchens and basements and occasionally a club, but we were in a van and starving, and like we're still starving, but we're on a tour bus, like, you know what I mean? We're playing like clubs with Under Oath, like these giant theaters and everything. Because Under Oath is doing so well, like it's just a completely different venue. So the experience is a little different this time around. I mean, it's all positive. It feels great.
yeah, it matters now how well the songs are played, as opposed to the energy of chaos in someone's living room. Like playing a basement show. It actually, it's like you want to have that energy, but now you're on a stage, and people in the back of the room that are older want to hear the songs. They don't want to see, 30-year-old men acting like 20-year-old men trying to thrash around. It's like
back then we were like breaking guitars and like falling on the drums and getting knocked out. Like it was like this weird trashy thing.
I mean, it was the Jersey scene, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
people, I've heard stories about it.
the only person that had a microphone was a singer, and off you go, just play thrash. So now it's kind of like, under a microscope.
Yeah, under the microscope, and it doesn't feel. You would think it would feel sterile this way, but it thankfully it doesn't. I was nervous about that. Like, it's a completely different energy playing a place like this as opposed to, as I said, like playing a basement. And I think for people at the show, they're taking in something completely different than they would have 10 years ago. But it's still a positive thing. So.
So it is fresh, though.
Yeah.
Nice.
Which is good, because these kids who were 7 aren't going to go to a house show, because there are no house shows.
No.
Like, unfortunately, like they don't have the benefit of a really rad musical community that we benefited from. They have to come to clubs like this to see it. So you know what? If we have to meet them halfway and present it here, then fine. That's fine. It's a decent intersection with the music.
Last question: will we see a Glassjaw Deftones Thursday tour?
If we have anything to say about it, yes.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Dream tour.
Be sick.
Likewise.
Awesome, guys. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, man. Pleasure.